For June 28th, this is the regular meeting. And can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Here.
Councilmember Perkins,
Here.
Councilmember Zafar,
Here.
Vice Mayor Veros,
Here.
and Mayor Hudson.
Here, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 3.1, announcements. Do we have any changes?
There are no changes this
Additions?
evening.
None. Move 3.2. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room. There. And submit it to the city clerk. There. I'm going to start getting some fingers here so we can direction. If you are participating remotely, click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. Item 3.3, boards, committee, and commission meetings. Complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city's website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription service is available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Contact the city clerk with questions, 925-973-2539. Public comment is open if you wish. Kind of looking ahead of time. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk. If you are participating remotely, click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. At this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on items that are on the consent calendar. That's item 5 on the agenda, including a request to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. Requests for future agenda items. Special presentation items under section 6 of tonight's agenda. We do have one item under section 6. If you wish to speak to it, please fill out a card or raise your hand under public comment. Items that are not on the agenda and are within the city council's jurisdictions are always addressed under public comment. I'm speaking, dragging it out to see if I have any speakers here. I don't. Please note that the decision to remove an item from the consent calendar, though, is strictly at the discretion of the city council. Do we have any cards?
We do have one speaker card as well as one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, well, let's go for the speaker card first.
Walker Tippett.
Hi, Walker. Good.
Hello, council. I come before you under different circumstances than at previous meetings. As you no doubt are aware, last week, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Mississippi Department of Health in Dobbs v. Jackson. It upheld the state's Gestational Age Act, which protects life in the womb beginning 15 weeks after conception. The majority opinion declares, quote, "The Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey are overruled, and the authority to regulate abortion is returned to the people and their elected representatives." Friday will go down as a monumental day in our country's progress towards liberty and justice for all. But as wonderful as this is, Roe never presented any real obstacle to abolishing abortions in the first place. It wasn't a law because courts don't pass laws, only elected representatives do. It was unconstitutional because it clearly violated people's right to life, recognized in the 14th Amendment. And according to the Supremacy Clause in Article 6, the federal government possesses no authority over the states if it violates what the Constitution already says. These are the arguments that nearly 50 cities have already used nationwide to outlaw abortions, all long before Dobbs was even first argued. So the circumstances really haven't changed much, except now local legislators can no longer blame our judicial branch for legal murder in their cities, only their own unwillingness to pursue direct action. I hope you know that I don't want to shame or intimidate you if you don't see eye to eye with me on this issue yet. The Bible says to always walk in humility, gentleness, and patience. I hope I've somewhat done that, but I cannot stress enough how significant this issue really is. To say that this is a matter of life and death is not at all hyperbole. And when it's all over, you will be held accountable to God for your commitment or your refusal to respect the intrinsic dignity of all people over whom you governed. Our culture's indifference towards death is right now on full display. 2 weeks ago, a man was arrested in Maryland for plotting to murder Justice Brett Kavanaugh because he knew he would vote to overturn Roe. A pro-abortion organization called Jane's Revenge threw Molotov cocktails into the office of a pro-life group, Wisconsin Family Action. They spray painted, quote, "If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either." This was on Mother's Day. Jane's Revenge has called for a, quote, "night of rage" following the Dobbs verdict. I bring these up to ask, throughout human history, when have those who resorted to such scare tactics ever been on the correct side of a moral issue? You have lawmaking power that the rest of us don't. It is uniquely incumbent upon you as public servants to reward good and punish evil, Romans 13. I can keep seeking to persuade you in 3-minute increments every 2 weeks, but actual reform is going to have to come from you. As of Friday, any real procedural obstacles you thought stood in the way to making murder illegal no longer exist. Please make San Ramon a place of hope for the most vulnerable among us. Thank you, and may God bless you.
No other cards?
I don't have any additional speaker cards, and I do have one hand raised on Zoom. Calling user 1.
Hi, council members. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the meeting before our nation's birthday, the Independence Day on July 4th. And I come before you to let you know that I do not feel like I live in a free country. What's happened is that my HOA has decided to freely violate our CCNRs, and they have converted what, when I bought the house, was a fob entry community pool to now analog keys. Ever since, for the past 10 days, I have had to stay until sometimes through the night because there are repeated trespassers in the pool, and there have been 3 incidences of false alarm. The first time I called the SRPD to accompany me to our board of directors house to get the key to shut off the medical emergency button. However, after that, I got a threat letter from my BOD, who is Indian born. And now, last night, I could not close my eyes because it was screaming all night, and I didn't want to jeopardize our SRPD because I don't know if this individual possessed a gun. I would like the city to please consider the following. Number 1, ask all of the HOAs in the city of San Ramon to give SRPD a key to the pool. So in the case that there is emergency like this, I can call them and it won't jeopardize my life nor the officer. And I am at the verge of mental breakdown because I haven't been able to sleep through the night for many, many nights. And I have addressed this, even carbon copying SRPD, but the management company and the foreign-born, all 4 of my 5 BODs are Indian-born. They are acting like I am the lowly peasants of India. They are not respecting the law of the land, and I have no other recourse. We also have a DA who advocates for criminal rights instead of upholding the law of the land. I honestly feel this year, our Independence Day truly is a shameful day because after 200 plus years, our nation has not progressed, but had indeed regressed back to medieval times, where I have to obey foreign-born, ignorant, and unempathetic, uncompassionate BODs who are elected by their clans, who just have money to buy here, and I don't have recourse. I'm asking you to please ask for key for the SRPD so I don't.
All right. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on tonight's meeting agenda. Next item is consent calendar items. Consent calendar items, there are 5.1 through 5.9. Considered routine and nature, acted upon by the city council with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to, first of all, did we have any written on public comment before I closed?
We did not.
I thought so, but figure I better check so I don't get embarrassed later. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request by mail to the city clerk or under item 4 public comment that the city council remove the item from the consent calendar. Is there anyone, we didn't have any cards to remove consent? Anyone from the council wishing to move consent? Are you guys that far ahead of me again? I'll take my time. Okay. We have 5 votes, 5-5. Consent calendar passes. 5-1 through 5-9. We're moving on to special presentations. We have an introduction of someone new. Come on up. Come on. Kelly, limit your speech to 3 minutes.
I will. I knew,
Mary, limit yours to 20.
first of all, thank you, City Council, for the time.
Megan, I'm sorry.
Sometimes, when you lose a key employee, you have big shoes to fill, and you run a recruitment and you are looking for someone special, the right person, and you end up with 2 or 3 or 4, and you really kind of go back and forth and really ruminate on who the right person is going to be to take that place. That was not the case this time. With Megan, it was absolutely clear in all of our minds who was the number 1 candidate, who was the person that we wanted to bring to San Ramon, who had the right disposition, the right experience, and just someone that we knew would thrive here. And that has certainly been the case in the last few weeks since Megan started. Let me read her bio. After beginning her professional career in the Midwest, Megan relocated to the Bay Area, where she has more than 10 years experience working with public, private, and nonprofit organizations. She began her work in human resources as a trainee in the County of Alameda's Human Resources Training Program, subsequently serving as the Human Resources Officer and Human Resources Manager for the Alameda County Fire Department. Megan specializes in employee labor relations, public safety, personnel management, and disability case management, including workers' compensation and family and medical leaves. Megan holds a bachelor's degree in English and theater from the University of Notre Dame. She lives in Orinda with her husband and 2 children, and she enjoys reading, hiking, and baking. And I am sure that you will find out, as well as we have found out, that she is just a delightful person and wonderful to have around. So without further ado, let me introduce Megan Donahue.
Hey, Megan, come on, scared the heck out of me. It says here I have a presentation. My presentation is Welcome to San Ramon. Please, you have 20 minutes. Go ahead. Tell us everything about Megan.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Thank you to Kelly for that very kind introduction. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to introduce myself and the warm welcome, which seems to be the only way that people are welcomed here at the City of San Ramon. I am thrilled to be here, and I am really looking forward to serving as the Human Resources Manager for the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any comments from the peanut gallery up here?
No, I just want to thank you for coming and we're going to have to talk. I have a special relationship with University of Notre Dame
Oh,
and I
I'm
do.
sorry. I flashed a Phil.
Yes, I know you did. The council member that held Sridhar's seat was a graduate of Notre Dame, and he didn't let
Excellent.
anybody forget it. So, so welcome to San Ramon.
Thank you so much.
You'll have to wear his socks.
Same
Any-
here,
Any other comments before we let Megan off the hook, Sridhar?
just wanted to welcome you, Megan, and thank you so much. I know what Kelly meant when he said big shoes, but I'm sure, you're going to do even better than that, and appreciate you
Thank
here
you
in
so
San
much.
Ramon. And anything we can do to make your job easier, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sridhar?
Welcome, Megan. I'm sure you'll enjoy a great time with our San Ramon staff because you have fantastic leader here as the city manager, Joe, and also great staff. We have one of the best staff in city. So
Agreed.
I'm sure you'll have a good time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome, Megan. Great to have you on a team and look forward to working with you in the future.
Excellent. Same here. Thank you so much.
And just remember, it wasn't the mayor that said you had big shoes. Thank you, Megan. Enjoy. We look forward. Can't hide. We go up and down these. We'll find you. Thanks again for joining the group. Okay, our next item is 10.2. Wait a minute. What did I go? A page too far? It's been an extremely long day. No, my goodness, I lost one. No, we're 10.1. I'm sorry. We'll let Debbie come up. This is resolution number 2022-105, supporting the conversion of Deer Creek South Apartments from moderate income senior to non-age targeted affordable units. And you're being asked to approve resolution 2022-105. Staff report, Debbie Chamberlain.
Thank you very much, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, I'm here to provide an overview of the conversion of the 185 units of senior moderate income units at Deer Creek to non-age targeted. So just for reference, Deer Creek South Apartments is located in the Doherty Valley area, just south of the Doherty Station Community Center. And so back in February 2012, the zoning administrator did approve the Doherty Valley Village Center plan, which included 445 units of senior housing. In 2014, an amendment was done to that approval to increase that unit count to 449 senior income affordable units. Of the 449 units, 264 on the north parcel, known as Deer Creek North, are constructed and nearly occupied. 15 do remain vacant still, which are the moderate income units. Of the remaining 185 units are yet to be constructed, but the county has issued all necessary building permits and all fees have been paid. As part of the overall Doherty Valley development, affordable housing obligations were woven into the development plan at various stages beginning in the 1990s. The developer's obligation for this particular property to construct the 449 rental units at Deer Creek and Deer Creek North were captured in a separate regulatory agreement back in 2014. A recent amendment to that agreement requires Chappelle to begin construction in June of 2023 and complete construction in June of 2025. The 264 affordable units on North Parcel are restricted to very low, and moderate income seniors. The remaining 185 on the South Parcel are programmed to be restricted for moderate income seniors. As I mentioned, the very low and low income units at Deer Creek North are rented and leased quickly. However, many moderate income seniors exceed the maximum allowable income to qualify for the moderate income units. So 15 of those units still do remain vacant till today. Due to the difficulty in seniors qualifying to rent moderate income units, Chappelle has approached the city and county with a proposal to allow the units be designated as non-age targeted. Non-age targeted does not restrict seniors from occupying units, but would broaden the availability of units to moderate income individuals and families. Furthermore, in January of 2026, income restrictions on 102 moderate income units at the Cornerstone Apartments will expire, converting those units to market rate. Chappelle's proposal to convert the Deer Creek South non-age targeted would provide an opportunity for individuals and families to continue to occupy affordable units in the Doherty Valley. The county has confirmed that they maintain the 185 moderate income restricted units as age targeted. The affordable housing obligation for the Doherty Valley of 25% is fulfilled and no modifications are necessary. Finally, on the DS tonight is an email from the school district confirming that the change in type would not have a significant effect on the district's ability to house the students. And that email and then the one from Tim Saunders that discussed their proposal were provided to the Policy Committee and Housing Committee. I inadvertently left them out of the package tonight, but you have them before you tonight. The Housing Advisory Committee unanimously supported the conversion, and the City Council Policy Committee requested that the council consider this request. So with that, staff recommends the council support the conversion of Deer Creek South Apartments from moderate income senior to non-age targeted affordable units. Tim Saunders, unfortunately, could not be with us tonight in person, but he is here in Zoom and would probably like to make a few comments to the council also.
Tim, I've drawn a blank here. Would Tim be part of the presentation now, City Attorney? Or do I ask for it when I open up the public? Just drawing a dead blank. Then Scott has a. Go ahead.
As the chair of this meeting, you can decide what.
Oh, Scott, your question.
This motion would just change the age restriction, but it would still be moderate, but with no age restriction. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we maintain the moderate income restriction, but be available for non-age targeted and would include seniors.
Just want to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I open public comment?
Just to make sure, so all how many number of units are moderate? I missed that one.
185.
185.
And building permits have been pulled and are ready for construction.
Oh, sorry, that includes the new construction one, or is it already 185 is from 264, the current 264?
So the total unit count for the Doherty Valley senior apartments was 449.
449.
264 in Deer Creek North are constructed, and only 15, which are the moderate income units, remain unoccupied. And this proposal, the Deer Creek South proposal, is 185 moderate income units.
Okay, perfect. So that is within 494, 185 will be the moderate income.
Right. 449 is a portion. There's 101 very low income units in Deer Creek's north that are leased. And then the balance of the 264 are moderate income units. But for this discussion tonight, we're only focusing on the 185 moderate income units in Deer Creek South.
So only Deer Creek South. Okay.
Good. Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll open up public comment. Do we have any cards?
We don't have any written cards, but you do have 2 hands raised on Zoom, one being Tim Saunders.
Let's do Tim first, because I'm vacillating whether he's part of the staff report or, anyway, go ahead, Tim.
With the timer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, just wanted to thank Debbie, covered everything perfectly. For Chappelle's request, all of her comments are exactly how we've discussed it over the last year. And at this point, we have no further information to give forward. So with that, we'll answer it. Myself and Doug Griffith for our operations department are here to answer any questions, and thank you very much.
Sounds good. Oh, I thought you had it. Okay, next speaker.
Call in user 1.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I resolutely object to this request as a citizen, and I have repeatedly said this in many committee meetings. And the last one that I went to was at the policy meeting that Councilmember Perkins is a chair. And I was very disappointed at that meeting because it was just like my HOA. It was lawless. The public wasn't able to object, and this is a free go. The developers are allowed to do whatever they want. They give you a they give you a senior only low income plan, and then afterwards you change it to all age. So everyone now, is trying to find some ways to cheat. And these developers, just like my HOA, keep their management company. We can get rid of them. And they're the ones who are actually not obeying the CCNRs that the home buyers have put in a lot of money investing in their properties here in San Ramon, seeing that the CCNR should guarantee them a certain quality of life, but in the end, it's not. Just like when you guys approved their plan, you were anticipating that their plan will fit into our city a certain way. And now I am so, disappointed that Ms. Chambers is helping the developer to violate our own law. You guys keep violating our laws, asking for resolution after resolution. This is truly a very sad present for our country. I am truly very sorry, and my condolences. Thank you. I know you will still pass it regardless.
Any other speakers or no one on Zoom?
That was the last.
Okay, we'll close the public comment. You'll have Tim Saunders' letter there. What's the pleasure of the city council or any thoughts? Go ahead, Scott. Yep.
My finger poised.
Oh, my goodness. One more. Oh, waiting for Scott Perkins.
What's that?
Okay. It's 5 votes for the conversion. I think when you can't rent somewhere in San Ramon with all the the need, the housing crisis we've been talking about, you're going to have to act on something. I think this is a good move.
Particularly with
You know,
the affordability restriction coming off of those 100 and some apartments.
Yep.
From Cornerstone, yeah.
This gives that group an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, at least the senior part of it. And, you know, we've got down here this declining enrollment in Doherty Valley, but unfortunately, if they change the lines, which is up to the district, and we do know we've approved a few houses, so there may be some more kids coming in, but it's a win-win. Yeah. To me, it was a win-win. Okay, though I tried to get it in early. I tried for you guys as much as I could.
I would like to quickly say thanks to Debbie for working and making sure this
yeah.
happened, because especially as we are losing that 185 in the Cornerstone, now you're bringing that onto other sides. So that's fantastic. And also thank you for checking with our school district, because always the question we receive from community is from our school district. Thanks for checking on that and giving all that information here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I might as well weigh in my thanks too. I remember hearing this during the policy committee back in March. And we asked it to be referred to the Housing Advisory Committee. You did that, came back to policy. I missed that particular meeting, but it looks like everything has fallen into place on this, and it's going to create opportunity for a lot of people to have some additional housing. So thank you.
As fast as you build it, they fill them. Okay, the much anticipated Brian Bornstein. Come on up here and introduce Jan Lee to us. This is a Dublin San Ramon Service District annual update. I think we all got it in the mail, so this ought to be wonderful.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is our part 2. I feel like it's like some Netflix thing, a mini series. Anyway, last time you guys got an update from East Bay Mud, and today is DSRSD. Now we do this yearly, but obviously it's a little more intense again with drought conditions, things like that. But Jan Lee, the Assistant General Manager of Dublin San Ramon Services District, will be here. That district covers about a third of San Ramon, mostly Doherty Valley area for water service. The other 2/3 East Bay Mud. But also we have Vice President of the Board of Directors, Marisol Rubio, also with us. So I'm so glad they took their time out to come to San Ramon and give us that update. So I'll stop talking and turn it to them, because I know you guys had a lot of questions last time, which I'm glad to see. There's lots going on.
Come on up.
So I'm going to bring them
And as a
up.
suggestion, I would send out that postcard after this meeting the next time. Nah, it is what it is. I think we're both, or I was both. Yeah. I got them all. Go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. Thank you so much for having us here today. It is our privilege and honor to be here to join you and give you an update on our annual water supply. As I was introduced, I'm currently the Vice President of the Dublin San Ramon Services District. I'm also the chair for DURWA this year. And I just want to mention something that's very important and we should all keep in mind, and I should wait. I'm going to roll back 1 minute. It's been a pleasure, by the way, serving for the past year and a half for Doherty Valley. It's been really a privilege. So thank you to all of our residents if you're listening in. So I just want to mention we're in our 3rd year of a drought, unfortunately. And what that means is that we are asking our residents to roll back their usage, conserve by 15% relative to the past year, their regular usage. It's been a bit of a challenge, but we're working on it. And that is a mandatory requirement at this point. We also have been requiring and asking people to only irrigate 3 times a week between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And we are going to put some parameters as well as to how long to water. Someone brought that up and it was a very valid point. So for now, I will pass it over to Jan Lee, who's our Assistant General Manager, to do the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jan?
So good evening, Mayor Hudson, Vice Mayor, members of the council. It's nice to be here in person. I'm Jan Lee, Assistant General Manager for DSIRSD, and I'll be walking through the presentation this evening. It is maybe a little bit long. We were given a heads up on some potential questions that the council might want to ask this evening. So I'll try to move pretty quickly through it. And unfortunately, COVID has aged me, so I'm trying to figure out which way, front or back. Let's see. Here we go. So we'll, of course, focus on drought and conservation. We'll touch on water quality, which I know is always of interest to this council and the city of San Ramon. Talk about our efforts to secure some supplemental supplies to be able to expand our recycled water program, and then some of our efforts to improve long-term water resiliency. So as Brian already mentioned, DSRSD provides water service, drinking water and recycled water to about a third of the city of San Ramon. This is the Doherty Valley portion of the city. And then East Bay Mud provides water service to the remaining 2/3. And then just a quick review of where DSRSD's water supply sources come from. About a quarter of our water supply, or the water we provide to meet demands, is recycled water, and the remaining 70% is purchased from Zone 7 Water Agency, which is our wholesale water agency. And then when we break down Zone 7 sources, on a long-term average basis, about 90% of Zone 7 supplies are imported water supplies that come through the State Water Project, and about 10 to 12% is local runoff that's captured in Lake Del Valle. And these numbers, of course, vary pretty significantly year to year, depending on hydrologic conditions. So one of the things we always get asked is, especially in San Ramon, is why is the water quality so different, one part of town versus the other, East Bay Mud versus DSRSD? And the answer really starts with how water comes to Zone 7 service area. So unlike East Bay Mud, the majority of their supply is the McCalmy system. It's piped directly 90 miles from the source, from the reservoir, into the East Bay. But for Zone 7, the water comes through the State Water Project and travels 200 miles. It's captured in the Sierra Nevada snowmelt, captured in Lake Oroville, which is the primary reservoir for the State Water Project. But then it travels down the Sacramento River, through the Delta, through portions of the California Aqueduct, and through the South Bay Aqueduct. So through both natural and man-made conveyance systems. And then this just illustrates, again, it's traveling a very long way to get into the Tri-Valley. The water is then picked up by Zone 7, who treats the surface water and then distributes it to the 4 retailers, which include DSRSD. And then we, in turn, deliver it to our customers, which include the city of San Ramon. So in addition to these supplies, Zone 7 has a broad array or numerous storage facilities that they use to balance out supply and demand, especially during drought years like this. So these blue boxes that just popped up are the surface water storage facilities that Zone 7 has access to. And then, of course, the majority of their storage is groundwater basins or groundwater banks. And one is our local groundwater basin, the Livermore Amador groundwater basin, or we refer to it as the main basin. And then also Zone 7 has access to groundwater banks in Kern County, Semi-Tropic Storage District, and Coelho. And as we talk about drought, you're going to see the importance that storage plays in meeting demands during droughts. So drought, we are in, as Vice President Rubio said, the 3rd year of a drought. We were hopeful when last year started off really well with the late storms in the fall and the winter, but then it was followed up by January, February, March being basically one of the driest springs on record. And so what that means is that Zone 7 received a 5% allocation from the State Water Project. This is the same allocation that they received last year. So in order to meet demands this year, Zone 7 is going to rely heavily on recovering water from both the local groundwater banks and the Kern County groundwater banks. They will also try to purchase water from willing sellers, about 2,000 acre feet. This is about 20% of what they were able to purchase last year. And what it just reflects is the drought conditions have worsened and there's less water available to purchase. This next schematic has a lot going on in it, but what the takeaway I wanted to illustrate is just, again, how much water is coming from storage. So on the left-hand side is your incoming supplies. This is the 5% state water project allocation, the water transfers, and the small amount of local runoff from the Del Val watershed. It comprises about 7,000 acre feet, but the vast majority of supply that's going to be used to meet demands this year will come from storage. About 43,000 acre feet, or about 85% of the supply is coming from storage. So again, highlighting the importance of storage to balancing supply and demand during a drought. And then what this graph shows is Zone 7 looks ahead to see how their storage system is being managed. It's a 5-year projection. We ended 2021 with about 218,000 acre feet in storage, which is, to give you a sense, roughly 4 years of storage, or 4 years worth of water to meet demands in the Tri-Valley. And 2022, of course, is a critically dry year. If 2023 is also a critically dry year, you can see that storage levels will continue to decrease. And then you see them leveling off. Zone 7's modeling shows, or they've modeled average year hydrologic conditions for 2024, 2025, and 2026. So you can see that there's still a healthy amount of storage for Zone 7, but we of course need to do our part to stretch that storage in case the drought continues. So DSRSD regulations and conservation efforts and what we're asking customers to do. Last year when I was here, we were in voluntary conservation. We did talk about if drought conditions continued to deteriorate, we were headed into mandatory conservation, and that's where we are right now. So in September of last year, the DSRSD board did declare a stage 2 water shortage emergency and implement 15% mandatory conservation and other water use restrictions. I do want to note, because I know Director Coleman was here last time, and East Bay Mud is messaging 10% mandatory conservation. We do know, we talk all the time between our agencies that there's a little bit of a difference in that 10 and 15%, but we are both in stage 2 water use restrictions, and these measures are largely the same. So when we're working on messaging and coordinating, we're really focusing on the measures that are consistent between our agencies. And then as Vice President Rubio said, the main message we want to deliver is the 3-day-a-week limitation on outdoor watering. We feel that if all of our customers can respond to this message and limit to 3 days, non-consecutive days per week watering, that we can achieve that 15%. There's also a number of other water use restrictions in place that are available on our website. But again, I just want to really touch on that one this evening. In addition to those water use restrictions, the DSRSD board also adopted water conservation rates that went into effect last November. These rates are largely put in place to help DSRSD offset revenue due to decreased consumption. So just to give you an example in this table, this shows the bi-monthly bill, so every 2-month bill for an average single family resident, which is about roughly $150. If that customer were to do nothing, not change their behavior, they would see roughly a $9 increase in their bill, or about a 6% increase. But if that customer cut back that 15% we're requesting, they'd see about a $10 decrease in their bill, or about 6%. So, not only does it help us recover revenue from decreased consumption, but folks that use a little bit more water, they should see some savings. So hopefully that also provides some incentive to cut back.
Jan, I think you just talked everybody into ignoring the 3-day. I hate to say it, but I heard that I wanted to stop you. That's going to cost you $9 if you don't change.
We also have, this is an average or a typical residence, but we also, as you know, throughout our service area, have customers that use quite a bit more water.
Yeah.
And so they will see quite a bit more on their bill. Okay, so how are we doing meeting our conservation target? So what we've asked for is 15% cutback over 2020 levels. These bars show the amount of water that was used in 2020. And then the darker blue bars show actual 2022 usage. This dashed black line shows our target. And then one more, this red line shows the percent change from 2022 to 2020. A positive number indicates we've actually increased water use over 2020. And so what you can see is that the early part of this year, our usage actually increased. And this
That's
is,
surprising considering how dry it was.
and I was going to, you absolutely, Councilmember Perkins, that is exactly reflected because of the, historically dry conditions during the spring. But we are seeing some turnaround. We're really ramping up our messaging on drought and what our customers need to do. So in May, we started to see a slight savings, and we're hoping to keep it going, especially during these peak irrigation months that are ahead of us.
No, go ahead, continue to finish, or we'll jump in every other picture.
I can take questions as I go. I can, whatever the pleasure of the
Keep going,
council
you're
is.
good.
Okay, so, some of the tools, just want to highlight that we have available for our customers. We're really trying to direct customers to our website. One of the most effective tools that we have is AquaHawk, which is our customer portal. About 8 years ago, DSRSD made the investment to install advanced metering infrastructure. So these are those meters, smart meters that allow customers to monitor their water usage in real time. About 2/3 of our customers have AquaHawk accounts, and these customers should get alerts from AquaHawk if AquaHawk detects unusual behavior like a potential leak. And then customers can also go online and set up individual notifications for high water usage or leaks as well. One of the things we've been working with AquaHawk on is trying to make some of these features a little bit more user-friendly. And we're also going to be putting out individual reports and sending those to customers as well to show how they compare to other similar sized lots in terms of water usage. We also have information on water saving tips and rebate programs. I won't go through all of them here. They're listed here and they're on their website. But I do want to highlight that we're always looking at ways to improve these rebate programs with Zone 7. And one of the improvements is that backyards are now eligible for this lawn conversion program. One of the things when we looked at it with East Bay Mud included backyards is eligible. The Zone 7 program didn't. So we worked together with Zone 7 to make sure that backyards could be included. We've also decreased the minimum square footage for qualifying front yards as well. So I encourage anyone that maybe looked at the rebates last year to look again because some of the criteria has changed. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we're really trying to ramp up outreach efforts, banners, signage around our service area, social media posts. We have radio spots. We've been making and offering to make presentations on drought and conservation, do a deeper dive on what our residents and our businesses can do. So we're happy to talk to anyone that wants to listen to us. So now I just wanted to switch gears and talk a little bit about water quality that, as I mentioned, I know is of interest to this council and the city of San Ramon. The Zone 7 supply meets or exceeds all federal and state drinking water standards. The water that's delivered to DSRSD customers, including the city, it's a blend of surface water and groundwater. And because of the hydraulics of Zone 7 system, customers on the west side of the valley, like Dublin and Pleasanton and San Ramon, tend to get more groundwater. And as you saw in those earlier slides, especially with the drought, there's a much larger percentage of groundwater that our customers are receiving in that blend this year and during droughts. Groundwater compared to surface water is typically harder. It has higher mineral content. Over 10 years ago, Zone 7 did construct the Mocho groundwater demineralization facility, and that facility removes salts, reduces hardness, and helps with the blend. But they do not typically operate that during droughts because there are losses through that system. And right now they are operating the groundwater basin to maximize supply. What this means for our customers is that they may notice differences in the water quality And what we mostly hear is they notice that the water quality is harder. Zone 7's also made some improvements to their surface water treatment plants. They've added ozonation, which addresses taste and odor issues from algae blooms, and it produces a better finished water quality. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about PFAS. So PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl alkyl substances, these are a large class of man-made chemicals, and they were developed to be resistant to water, fire, oil. They're in numerous household products that you see here, Teflon pans, clothing, cosmetics. They were used at one point for firefighting foam. We refer to them as forever chemicals because they don't generally break down in the environment or the human body. And studies, there's a lot of studies being performed, but some early studies indicate that they have an adverse impact on health. So what is being done to address PFAS now? Right now, there is not a federal or state standard for PFAS. So in the interim, what the state has developed are advisory levels. And you can see for 3 of the PFAS compounds, the table shows both a notification and a response level. Zone 7 treats, mostly through blending, to make sure all delivered water quality meets that response level. But because the water that's delivered may be above the notification level, so again, below the response level, but above the notification level, state law requires that we send a quarterly notification to governing bodies, such as the City Council for San Ramon. So this is why you are receiving that notification quarterly. We also include this information in our annual report. And Zone 7 is actively designing PFAS treatment facilities. So when that state standard for PFAS comes into play, they'll be prepared to treat down to that level. And I do want to mention that these are very low levels that are being detected. We're talking about parts per trillion. So just to give a sense of what a part per trillion is, it's 1 drop in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So these are very low levels that are even difficult to detect, using analytical methods. And then just briefly on our recycled water program, this is our partnership with East Bay Mud, where we provide recycled water to the cities of Dublin, San Ramon, Pleasanton, and this year we're pushing into the town of Danville. It's a very successful program. We take a lot of pride in it. Since we first developed the program in 2006, deliveries have increased about 5 times. And right now we are at a point where during summer, we recycle every drop of wastewater that comes into our treatment plant. And what this means is that we're essentially a 0 discharge wastewater treatment plant to the San Francisco Bay during these periods in the summer. But it also means we have no supply to connect any new customers. So until we can secure some additional supplies, we're at a point where we're no longer connecting customers to that system. We are working hard with East Bay Mud and other regional partners to try and identify and develop some of these supplemental supply projects. One of them is the temporary Central San Derwa diversion project. So Central Contra Costa Sanitary District serves portions of San Ramon and overlaps with East Bay Mud's service area. You can see from the picture on the left, DSRSD and Central San's collection systems are very close together. And so what we did is we diverted a portion of Central San supply into DSRSD's sewer collection system, which then allows us to augment our recycled water system, additional supply to treat and provide to recycled water customers. And then on the right-hand side, our staff is always being innovative. We're right now storing effluent to be able to, again, try and use every last drop of wastewater and turn it into recycled water. We also are working on, with Zone 7 on a number of efforts to improve long-term resiliency. This table shows the broad array of supply, storage, and conveyance projects that are being explored. They include expansion of an existing reservoir, a new reservoir, some different options for non-delta conveyance systems. So not bringing the water through the delta, but bringing it around or under the delta, desalination, purified water. I know I've gone over a lot, but hopefully maybe next year the drought conditions ease and I can talk a little bit more about the progress that we're making on some of these long-term options. But hopefully that touches on a number of the updates, and I'm happy, and Vice President Rubio, we're happy to answer any questions.
Any
from the council.
questions, starting with the left first? Seeing none? Scott? I got a half dozen.
Yeah. I might be getting confused by what you were saying, but I thought you said we're in stage 2, but I thought the state said they just went to stage 3.
The regulations, the state regulations required all water purveyors to go into stage 2.
Okay, so that's the current
That is the
standard
current
stage.
requirement.
Okay.
And stage 2 for most agencies is up to 20%. So you
Mhm.
can see like East Bay Mud is at 10%, we're at 15%, but they need to implement stage 2 measures.
Okay, all right. And just a comment, I was glad to see the rebates for things like lawn replacement incentives and appliance upgrades and things like that. I think that's great. I guess one of the questions, this probably Councilmember Perkins can articulate this one better, but first of all, how old is Zone 7 in terms of how long you've been around? And you're talking about the long-term water reliability, but how's the infrastructure aging? And do you have a program, for things like, acoustic leak detection and things like that to fix problems in the pipes before they become a major problem? How's your program for maintenance?
So Zone 7's system, I want to be a little
Athens
careful
was on
here.
your board before we were a city, so a while.
Yeah, 1960 was when they became a state water project contractor. I can speak a little more comfortably about DSRSD's infrastructure.
Okay.
Our infrastructure compared to, say, East Bay Mud is a little newer in terms of the development in our service area. So while we're not doing like acoustic leak detection, we do have a very robust replacement CIP program to look and evaluate pipes and aging infrastructure. But it's not as old as some of the other infrastructure systems that you see in the Bay Area.
Yeah, okay. And probably most of the service area in San Ramon is pretty new
Yeah,
relative
we've
to.
benefited from that.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Sridhar, we'll just keep going right on down the line.
Yeah, I have one question regarding the leaks. I receive water from DSRSD. So whenever there is a leak while I'm walking or in my backyard, I can hear some sounds whenever there's leakage. Is there any hotline number or is there a contact number 24/7, something that we can call and report about that?
There's both an email and there is a phone number, and I can get that to you. And maybe that might be something we can publicize a little bit.
For calling John John Coleman, whenever I see a leak somewhere, and then he immediately sends it to the general manager. And lo and behold, within an hour or two, there's usually a East Bay Mud truck.
Yes, you can also send it to me.
So what he's saying is get Marisol's and Jen's numbers. But just knock on Marisol's door.
Because because recycle starts in the night, right? So that's the challenge. Once it starts in the night, then it continues. And at one point, I became obsessed to drive around and see is there any leakage anywhere.
Good. Okay.
People to report it because it's almost.
Got to keep track of you guys.
If one of the, sprinklers or anything are broken, and sometimes they're broken even by the people who are mowing even the grass in the
Yeah,
area.
Yeah.
that's true.
So it's great. Yes, please feel free to email any one of us. If you see anything, just.
Oh, I'm not talking about email. Like, is it possible to call immediately?
We do
Sure.
have an
Call.
official, yeah, we have an
text it.
official.
Text out. Perfect.
Sridhar, any more? Scott?
Well,
and
I
Sabina?
wanted to ask, we've been in and out of droughts now for a couple of decades. And with each drought, we get a little more efficient, you know? We replace plumbing systems, we replace sprinkler systems, we replace landscape. And so each and every family, and I'm sure, I know this is true in East Bay Mud because I have the numbers, but I'm sure it's all probably true as well in DSRSD that your gallons per person are going down, you know, from the 1970s to now. East Bay Mud is serving 30% more people with 50% less water. And I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing. And what I'm getting to is it becomes harder and harder and harder to get that next 5 or 10% of conservation. If I'm already gone from, you know, spray systems to drip systems, and we've already gone to efficient dishwashers and efficient clothes, and we're taking shorter showers with, you know, flow conservation shower heads, how do we get that next 5 to 10%?
Absolutely.
All 4 of my kids are out of the house, so I've done that. You know, that was big help.
So what?
Trust me, that was big help.
So what Councilmember Perkins you're talking about is demand hardening, and that is very real. You know, I'm sure Director Coleman had some statistics. The one I like to use is when you look at the last 20 years, the flows into our treatment plant are flat, meaning they really haven't grown. We have the same supply we had in about 2002, even though the number of connections in our service area have almost doubled. So that speaks to the efficiency. And then, of course, a number of our customers, especially during the last drought, converted some to drought tolerant plants. So it is a challenge. You know, the other challenge that we face is that when I talk about a quarter of our demand is met with recycled water in the summertime, that percentage is 1/3. So when we talk about 3-day-a-week irrigation, all the parks, all the schools in Dublin are already on recycled water. So that lever to pull, it's more challenging. So that is one of the things I don't necessarily have an answer for you today, because one of the things, as Councilmember Armstrong mentioned, is the state, you know, steps in and says and mandates conservation as well. So that is something we're going to have to look in the future about how demand hardening needs to be reflected in our water shortage contingency plans.
Yeah, like solar energy, you're using solar panels, you start doing the for water, collect your own rainwater.
Interesting. I know people have gone to, you know, collecting rainwater, but in terms of the money, you saw the bill, you know, $130 bill for 20 units, and the unit's what, 700 and some gallons, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you've got 700 gallons of saved water and it costs you more than $150 to save that 700 gallons, you're wasting money. You're saving water, but you're wasting money. Okay. So there's that. The other piece of this thing is, are the water districts in Zone 7 and others working with the state at all? One of the things we get hammered on as council members is we're required to find or to zone land use for another 5,000 affordable homes. And that doesn't count the market rate homes. And each one of those homes is going to use some water. And so we're adding housing and we're losing water. How do we balance those things? And are the water districts talking to anybody in Sacramento about this problem? Because I get hammered on it all the time by constituents.
And we get that question about development and water supply quite often, especially during a drought. You know, one thing I do want to maybe point out is that the level of service or the reliability policy for Zone 7, which is mirrored in the DSRC water resiliency policy, is not to provide 100% water 100% of the time. Our goal is to provide water or limit rationing to, in general, no more than 15% in dry years. And then, of course, in really severe droughts like this, it may be even more. So that is one thing that, you know, I say to people when they ask how are homes being built, when you're asking customers to ration, is that there is a level of service that's been adopted by water agencies. And then in terms of your question on new development, we we develop a urban water management plan, and so does Zone 7, and this is based on the general plans of cities. There's also some additional requirements for certain types of developments that go through CEQA for water supply assessments, and we plan and include in our long-term plans these developments. And then, of course, we update these plans every 5 years, and they're designed to both look at meeting current demands and long-term demands.
Do you know offhand how many miles per year of underground water delivery pipes you're replacing to reduce the risk of leaks?
So one of the things I'll mention is DSRSD has a pretty tight system in terms of water leakage.
You know roughly how much percent of water
It's
you're?
probably about 8% or less.
You know, that's interesting because that's what John said. His is 8%.
They
I
talk.
don't know whether he's lying or,
They
but
talked.
8% of a lot of miles and a lot of water is still a lot of water.
Generally, with EPA, anything below 10% is pretty good. So when the last drought occurred, the governor did adopt kind of a suite of regulations, and one of them was water loss audits that we have to submit every year. And then we're held to a standard, and this standard will be revised, or there'll be additional measures that come into place. But generally, that 8%, 6 to 8% it's a good tight system.
You don't think you can do better than that?
As an engineer, I'll put my engineer cap on, I'm not sure you could cost effectively do that, because what happens is all these leaks are like pinpoint leaks throughout the system, and there's not a major source of the leak when you're getting down that low. So, I mean, it's certainly something we're always looking at, but it is generally, considered a pretty tight system.
The civil engineer, you agree with that?
Sabina,
All right.
help us out here.
Well, thank you so much. Go ahead, Marisol, you can say
I'm
something.
going to add that in terms of development and housing, obviously higher density is also much more economical than into a single family home in terms of water demand. And what was the second question? No. But the other thing is that we're consistently always researching and looking into capital investment opportunities on how we can continue to meet an inevitable growing demand. And so that's something that we're just consistently always updating on a regular basis, because it's just a fact of life. So.
Sabina?
Well, I want to say thank you to both of you. I am a liaison from the city, so I get to hear a little bit more. I was hoping we'd see that video you guys showed at the last meeting. That was pretty cool. How, the journey of water and how water makes it out here. So, but thank you so much. I think your presentation was pretty tight because you didn't have as many questions.
Oh, we're
And
not through yet.
did a little bit of a homework in the background. I think the state question you asked, because I have so many water board directors whispering in my ear all the time, I end up asking those questions from our legislatures at the League of Cities events as well, and I think finally our legislatures are starting to pay attention. Nobody was really paying attention to the water question, right? It was never asked. And so I appreciate yourself and some of the other board members, asking me to take that up with the legislature. So I have done that as well. The hard water is probably the biggest issue in Doherty Valley. So thank you for addressing that and explaining what happens. We have friends that have debates over the water quality and, the water softeners and all of that stuff. So that's good to know that, there's a reason why it's hard during the drought as well. And then you mentioned Durva, and one of the most interesting things I found when I got on council was the number of agencies it actually takes to get us water and recycled water. And, the reason why we have obviously DSRSD supplying us water, because as we were building housing, I guess East Bay Mud said, we're not giving you any more water. We don't have water. And so we have two agencies, and then we have agencies. For the purpose of our residents, would you like to explain what DERWA does as well?
Basically, Specifically, Durwood deals with recycled water that we mostly provide to, for irrigation purposes. We joined in a partnership with East Bay Mud some time ago, and it's just been, very fruitful, I think, partnership in helping each other to meet the demands of our customers and making sure it's a successful program for all involved. Would you like to add anything additional? No? Okay.
Dave and
Yeah,
I were
thank
on, we're both on the council when Durwood started up, and we remember, year after year after year, the plans of the new pipes going here, the new pipes going, we're going to connect up to Bishop Ranch, we're going to connect up to Central Park, we're going to connect up to here, there, and there. And so we saw it happening.
I tried to talk them into the golf courses, but San Ramon Golf was on well water, so it wasn't a big thing. But I was lucky enough when you start thinking about this, and if you're not through, stop me in the middle.
Yeah, I had one last question about, so the governor's been talking about, getting businesses to stop using as much water and, some of the state stuff are you hearing anything yet, or what is the development on that?
So we are monitoring that. One of the measures that you may have heard about is the limitation on irrigating non-functional turf for commercial industrial institution. That is something we're looking at how to implement. Again, one of the tricky parts for DSRSD is that there's an exemption for those areas that are served with recycled water. And about 50% of our areas are served with recycled water. So we have to take a finer look at how we could implement that.
Because we also have 64 parks in San Ramon, so.
Now, it does expressly exclude areas that are used for recreation.
Okay.
So it's mostly looking at sort of the kind of business park, turf, non-functional areas.
Campus kind of thing.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Which for us in Doherty Valley, many of those areas are on recycled water.
I was fortunate enough before Doherty Valley even was built or very far along to go down to Fountain Valley with your predecessor, took a bunch of us down. One of the smarter moves I've ever seen, because initially everybody wanted to run against blocking recycled water. Oh, no, you're going to be drinking toilet water. No. I mean, you heard it all. But there's really no way you're going to be able to do this and keep landscaping without doing a project like this. I swear Orange County is literally run off the rivers completely recycled. I don't know how they do it, but somehow this Fountain Valley project, whatever they're calling. And the beauty of it is after they get through reaching a certain percentage of recyclable, they throw it on the park and don't have to add any fertilizer. I mean, it's just really green. So I think you'll probably see more of the golf course to try to get, but there's no money in it. A couple of questions I had. Your graph early on, when I almost stopped, had it to May where it was showing, but it kind of gave you an idea. Do you have any indication of June being any different than, in other words, no early returns on your postcard you sent out where all of a sudden nobody wants water? I mean, nothing yet off of that?
I don't have the June numbers yet.
Okay. But no field, nothing, no indicators that now it's not catching on yet. We're still heading the wrong way. The other one, I almost laughed. Is there really such a thing as a willing seller for water in California right now? I mean, it reminds me of when we were doing the power thing, and yeah, there was a willing seller, but instead of $40 a unit, we'll charge you $1,000. I mean,
Well, you just touched on it. At a certain price point, there are willing sellers.
oh, there's no willing. Forget that. We're not paying that price. Your PFAS. Spent a lot of time with AECOM, who's doing it. Who are you using? Do you have anybody in particular? Or is it just sort of early on in stages, no contracting to remove it or anything at this time?
So that contract for the design is through Zone 7.
Yeah.
And I'm almost positive who the consultant is, but I don't want to
No,
name
I
them
don't
just
wanna
in
know.
case I am
I just-
wrong.
They
I
just
will get
happen to
angry
have a,
calls from other consultants.
yeah, they just happen to be over at Almond today, and I was talking to, because they do a lot of like the Oh, gosh, they're in everything. I mean, the buses, trains. I mean, this is a huge company. And the last one, did I hear that correctly, that San Ramon's water is better than Dublin?
Depends how you look at it, right?
That's a board question for sure.
No, I was gonna just say on the PFAS thing is really interesting is that.
Wow,
EPA
what a politician. Did you hear
No,
that?
I
Did she
was
just
just-
duck that?
Well, no, I mean, I've actually gone to DC to listen to discussions on this, so I think it'd be very, fruitful to share this with you. It's just that the EPA is working aggressively right now to try to set the standards so that we actually have a standard to work off of. They haven't done that quite yet, and they're still studying the sort of what are the cumulative and long-term effects of PFAS being in our water supply and what it does in terms of our biology. The other compounding factor that they found out, believe it or not, are microplastics, which are essentially acting like sponges now to PFAS. So, and microplastics are actually being found within our own biology. In April 2022, there was a study that identified microplastics in our blood supply, so in our own blood. So this is something that I know there's federal bills that are being considered right now to hold polluters accountable, to try to sort of basically dissuade them, encourage them to go in another direction and reconsider how they're producing their products.
Yeah, I don't want to hit it too much, but that's going to be quite a bill if PFAS is still in fire suppression. And we keep going through, I mean, what are you going to do? Let the fires burn and not put them out, or is it still in there, or go ahead?
Yeah, there's certain chemicals that PFAS is now banned and it's
Okay.
not in those, but there are still, as I mentioned, this is a class of thousands of chemicals and there are still manufacturers producing goods that include PFAS in
I know
them.
Contra Costa is looking at doing a pledge to not buy anything that has it. I mean, this plastic, the whatever. So anyway, I don't have anything further. Is there any cards anybody want to speak to this? Did we have any?
I don't have any speaker cards, but I do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll wait and see if we have anything done, and we thank you very much. There's no action we need to take, and thanks for coming out. We weren't too mean, I hope, but I mean, it's a fact of life, and it's better to know the facts before you move on, because it's not going to get better before it gets worse. And that's truly the message. And I wouldn't count on a willing seller in California this year. Okay, well, no further. Let's get the speaker card. Thank you very much.
We have
Our
two
speaker person, go
we have
ahead.
two hands raised on Zoom now.
Go ahead.
Allison,
Let's start with Allison.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't really have comments. I just have questions. First question would kind of be with the new business with the Deer Creek rentals, what's the timeline on that? And then sort of the second question might be coming from a place of ignorance, but I was just wondering in terms of water conservation, if retention ponds have ever been a part of sort of a plan, or do we kind of have man-made retention ponds? And if we are focusing on soil retention of water in any way, I know these sort of sound like sort of contrary things to our water problems, but I feel like if the soil could retain more water, and just knowing my own experiences, these hills are pretty bare. They get pretty brown in the winter and summer months, and really don't start to see that greenery until it rains. And what I see there is that the soil's not really retaining the water for a very long time. So it's very thirsty. And I feel like if we didn't have thirsty soil, there wouldn't kind of be, we could also mitigate any sort of harsh rains or anything like that, which we haven't had in quite some time. But I just want to know, if these solutions have been discussed before and why they are not considered viable, I guess. That's all. Those are just my questions. Sorry.
Thank you, Al. And the next speaker?
Call-in user.
Yes, you have the floor.
Hi, I actually have questions for the pretty girls that you let go. I'm not sure why you do that, but these are my questions I wish they would have answered. First of all, the Dublin San Ramon Service District really shouldn't be coming to us. We are a very small portion of their customers. Their major customer base is in the city of Dublin. What they are doing, and shame on all the council members who didn't speak for us taxpayers in the city of San Ramon, they're trying to ask the residents of San Ramon to conserve while the city of Dublin can build. Have you been to the city of Dublin lately? Even the pretty girl who spoke just now said that their major problem now is the doubling of their population. Who is the cause of that? It is not from overusage of peasants like us, or I'm sorry, tax slaves like us. It is from politicians like you who have repeatedly approved affordable housing and populations who keep coming in when we don't have the water. Shame on you guys. So you should have asked them, what is the percentage of DV usage of the entire Dublin San Ramon Service District? Also, you should have asked them, why are they selling anything? Why did they even mention Danville? Their jurisdiction is not in Danville unless they're selling water to Danville. So they're asking me to conserve water so they can make a profit out of my conservation? Wow. And if I don't comply, then they will penalize me? Wow. What is this? Communist China? Also, why is it that the city of San Ramon has been putting in new plants on Ivy Hillway? I've been trying to reach a Mr. Seville in landscape department with no avail. I cannot reach him. I don't know why you guys are putting in drip system when that area has been for years being fine, just on sawdust, wood chips. Shame on you, Councilmember Heroes. You never said anything. Instead, you guys are happily chatting away, talking about your opinions. Why do we need you guys? Really, you are problem makers. You keep approving developments to come in, and then you force us taxpayers to conserve, or you will penalize us more. This is ridiculous. The root causes of our water problem are the politicians. Start with the president wannabe, Gavin Newsom, and the communist Chinese politicians, lawmakers, the Democrat lawmakers in Sacramento, and my city council members. Shame on you guys, really. And also, who would be the willing seller of water? Communist China? I'm very curious. Does this water district do any business from district to district? In other words, are they selling water to developers or to outside districts and then forcing us, the customer base, which by law is their fiduciary duty to supply the water for their benefit? Thank you.
I mean, actually, I think what Allison did, Zone 7, actually, and you guys had it in front of your building. I'm getting the two mixed up, where you could go over and see what were the plants that were easy to use. There's always been things that you could pick up at the building. I'd probably go online to see it. Soils, et cetera, which will help with the amenities. Anybody can look that up. That's to Allison's question. Elections, yes, you will keep coming before us as long as you have voters from San Ramon. We like you. Please come back. And isn't the Durwa project also into Danville? Are they doing the recycled? That, I mean, it's East Bay Mud, so I just assumed it was. I think there's a little confusion with the last speaker.
Yeah, if I may,
Yeah.
Mayor Hudson, the Durwa service area, the member agencies are DSRSD and East Bay Mud, and East Bay Mud service area includes Danville.
Yeah, that's okay. We got that straight. The other question I know was about the previous item, so I didn't write anything down on it. That was passed, but okay, let's thank you very much for coming out this evening. A little extra of giving it, but I remembered seeing the exhibitions and all the things that you've been doing for decades. So sometimes if you just don't remind everybody every quarter or something like that, we forget. Okay, we'll move on from 10.2 to the highlight of the evening, which is always the city manager's comments.
All right, not too many comments tonight. Just a reminder that 4th of July is right around the corner. And hopefully the council will be able to attend either the run and or the concert in the park. The run starting at 7:30 in the morning. The run kicks off with the fastest mile, 5K and 10K, start at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m., excuse me. And then we have the 5 p.m. on the 4th of July concert featuring Pride and Joy and special recognition for our veterans and active duty military. Also, as you're aware, Councilmember Perkins brought up some time ago, the anniversary of the city's incorporation is Friday, July 1st for the 39th year. And yes, we are planning a 40-year celebration. So
Why? We don't go past 39.
okay. And then I have it on reasonably good assurance that we will be moving the police department in July 18th, the week of July 18th. So that date has been pushed out a few times, and I'm blaming the current police chief for that completely. But he now has assured me that this seems to be a pretty hard date. So hopefully when we get everybody moved in, you can come over and take a look at it. If you want to take a look at it prior to all the movement and all that stuff, just contact Chief Stevens, and I'm sure he can get you a walkthrough. It really is pretty amazing. It's a beautiful building. So they've done a great job.
And we can get a walkthrough for that fire department building that they were talking about earlier on Al Costa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paige, you gotta lean on him a little
That's
bit.
the fire chief. It's
I
hard
know,
to
but
hard to
you can't.
manage.
Okay, public comment is open now for anyone who hasn't spoken previously. Do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
We don't have any speaker cards for public comment. We do have one hand raised, but they already spoke during the first public comment.
Okay, then we'll close public comment. The item's on to city council members. Sabina, we're gonna start with you. Okay, no, Mark, we're gonna start with you.
Sure. I just want to report, I attended last Thursday, the senior center, Al Costa Senior and Community Center annual barbecue. And it was great. It was a lot of fun, good crowd, well attended. A lot of people meeting other people. A lot of people have been there. That was our first time over to the senior center and to see the different activities. They had music, good barbecue. And of course, the usual cast was there, Steve Cox and Susie Chow, James Spielvogel. There were a lot of people helping out, but Parks and Community Services did a great job with that picnic. I think they're going to do another one in August, a different fiscal year. I think they may do another barbecue, but anyway, it was great fun and great time for the seniors.
Okay, Sridhar, I've had complaining down here on the right, so I'm gonna keep going left to right.
So on January 23rd, had an opportunity to attend League of Cities.
January?
June.
Starts with a J, whatever. June.
Yeah, so let me catch up with my 2022. I'm still in 2023 project plan. So anyway, so June 2022. Yeah. It was, even though we had our first bocce ball experience, at least for me,
we won.
We came pretty close from the bottom.
We were out of there by 9. We won.
From the bottom, I think. But anyway, so that was fun. And today I had opportunity to attend the ribbon cutting for Striking Distance Studios in our Bishop branch. It's fantastic demo that they gave it to us. I'm really looking forward for their game and glad that we have some gaming studios coming into our city.
Okay.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay. Scott, you want to go before Sabina?
I just want to say, I've got one of my Eagle Scout candidates is watching this meeting tonight as part of a merit badge. And I said, you need to stay till 8:30 and it's coming up on 8:30. So you can leave when we're done here. But he's that close to make, it's his last requirement for his last merit badge for Eagle Scout. So he has to watch a city council meeting.
It was another Saturday. Sabina?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, exactly. It's coming.
Well, I'm excited about the 40-year celebration. I think that'll be pretty cool. July 4th, again, like Joe mentioned, July 4th is coming up. We will also be in the parade in Danville. Not that I like to mention that, another city's name, but I think it'll be fun. So hopefully we'll see you over there, and as well as the concert. So the Arts Foundation will be there volunteering at the concert. So come and say hi for drinks and dancing. Bocce ball, I think after our performance last week, we might want to make it mandatory for staff to play bocce ball once a week. And then we put, and we might need some volunteers who tell us we are actually bocce ball experts so we can recruit the right team here. Joe tells me we'll be getting a lot of bocce ball courts quite soon in Rancho. So I think we'll just have to, we'll get up to.
Have a council meeting there.
We can have a council meeting there, right?
Within the jurisdiction.
Yeah. And we might want an intercity competition so that we take the best of the best when we go and compete with other cities as well. People are going to have to make the cut. On that one. Oh, you have no idea what went down last week.
You have to.
We're very
understand,
competitive. We don't like to lose. So
Otherwise,
this 10 or
otherwise
12
next time we are
years,
switching to cricket.
We won. We were gone before the sun went down. We won.
We won.
These people that are sitting here fighting for this little trophy didn't even get to, anyway. Mayor's conference has been at the ALMA conference all day. It's kind of taken over everything. Airways management. It's in San Francisco, kind of goes around the country, Canada. And this year it's in San Francisco because during COVID, we couldn't hold it there. But as I mentioned earlier, PFAS is a very prominent part in this now, and it's getting more and more notice from everyone that this little nasty thing doesn't go away. It's kind of the COVID before COVID. It's the one drop in a trillion, but then it's another drop and another drop and another drop. And Contra Costa County is seriously looking at getting the wording. They're going to do it, that they're not buying anything with PFAS in it. And it's, this part of what we do now, where we find what's bad and cut it out. Anyway, let's move on to item 14. We will convene to close session pursuant to Government Code 54957.6 for City Council to meet with city negotiators Joe Gordon, Martin License, Kelly Sessions, and Stephen Spadowski, three of the great members of that bocce ball team, concerning labor negotiations with the Service Employer International Union, SEIU Local 1021. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this before we adjourn to closed session? You see no cards, no speakers. We are adjourned to closed session. And we will be back. council met with negotiators earlier. Gosh, I actually just got out of it. And has given direction to the city negotiators and has nothing to report out at this time. Being no further action or no further comments from the council, we are adjourned to the next regular scheduled council meeting, which will be held